book off my bookshelf is County Folklore, Leicestershire and Rutland, collected and edited by Charles James Bilson, issued by the Folklore Society. Now this is a book of extracts and it's printed, and it's number 3, and it's printed in 1895, but it refers to a lot of texts that are a lot earlier, which I will endeavour to find those books somewhere. But for now, get yourself a cuppa, sit back and enjoy today's episode. Today's episode is Holy Wells. Holywell Haugh. I glean the leading parts of the following legend of Holywell from an aged person at Whitwick, where the name of Comyn, as connected with the ancient castle of that place, a matter of 500 years ago, is still mentioned. The popular idea seems to be that the Comyns were great giants. One of them, said my informant, attempted to carry off one of the ladies of Groby Castle, who left that place for security, intending to take sanctuary at Grace Dew. Going, however, by a circuitous route to avoid Charlie and Whitwick, she was benighted and would have perished in the outwoods but for one of the monks of the Holywell. The anachronisms and notations of the history occurring in the narrative need not be pointed out to the intelligent reader. There is, however, as observed below, some truth mixed up with what is evidently fabulous. The tradition may, in fact, have risen from Douglas carrying off Eleanor Ferrers. The legend of the Holy Well. The oaks of the forest were autumn tingled, and the winds were a sport with their leaves, when a maiden traversed the rugged rocks that frown over Woodhouse eaves. The rain fell fast, she heeded it not, though not hut or home appears. She scarcely knew if the falling drope were raindrops in her tears. Onward she hid through the outwoods dark, and the outwoods were darker then. She feared not the forest deep in gloom, she feared unholy men. Lord Comyn's scouts were in close pursuit, for Lord Comyn the maid had seen, and had marked her mother's only child for his palmer, I ween. A whistle, a whoop from the Boyack Hill side told Agnes her foes were nigh, and screened by the cleft of the aged oak, she heard quick steps pass by. Dark and dread fell the autumn night, the wind gustled fistful blew, the thunder rattled and lightning's glare showed beacons crags to view. The thunder neared, the lightning played around the sheltered oak, but Agnes of men, not God afraid, shrank not at the lightning's stroke. The thunder passed, the silvery moon burst forth from a cave of cloud, and showed in the glen red Comyn's men, and she breathed a prayer aloud. Maiden, mother of God, I look down, listen to the maiden's prayer. Keep undefiled my mother's sole child, and spot them are they care. The sun had not glinted on Beacon Hill. Earth, the hermit of Holy Well, went forth to pray, as his wont each day, at the cross in Fairy Oak Dell. 10 steps had he gone from the green grassy mound, still hemming the Holywell Haugh, when stretched on the grass by the path he must pass, a statue-like form he saw. He crossed himself once, he crossed himself twice, and he knelt by the come in prayer. Jesus Maria, cold as ice, cold, cold, but still how fair. The hermit upraised and stiffened form, and he bore to the holy well. 3 patters or more he muttered o'er, and he filled his scallop shell. He sprinkled the lymph on the maiden's face, and he knelt and he prayed at her side. Not a minute's space had to be gasped on her face, as signs of life he spied. Spring had invested the Charnwood oaks with their robe of glistening green, when on Palfrey's bourne one smiling morn at the Holywell Hall were seen. A youth and a lady passing fair, who asked for the scolloping shell. A sparkling draught each freely quaffed, and they blessed the holy well. They blessed that well with a fervent blessing, the holy hermit too. To that and to him they filled to the brim the scollop and drank anew. Thanks, Father, thanks to this well and thee, said the youth, but to heaven most. I owe the life of the fairest wife that Charmwood's bound can boast. The blushing bride, though sest at my side 3 hours ago, made mine, is she who from death restored to breath by a heaven-thrown hand and thine. The prior of Ulverscroft made us one, and we hastened here to tell how much we owe kind heaven and thee for the gift of the holy well. In proof of which the Holywell Hall I give as a votive gift, from year to year 3 fallow deer, and the right to the challenge drift. I give beside a land of 2 hides, to be marked from the breed and brand, to be held while men draw from the well in the hall a draught with the hollow hand. The hermit knelt and the hermit rose, and breathed benedicti. And tell me, he said with a hand on each head, what heaven's sent pair I see. This is the lost deferest child, who dwelt at Steward's Hay, and father, my name, yet unknown to fame, is simply Edward Grey. St. James's Well. It may be well to mention that in close proximity to the chapel of St. Sepulchre stood St. James's Chapel, which had a holy well in connection with it close to the old pond at the corner of Infirmary Square. This well had a never-failing supply of fresh water until the deep drainage of the town diverted it from the original outlet. Leicestershire Notes and Queries, Volume 2. Hinckley, St. Mary's or Our Lady's Well. There is a well here known as St. Mary's Well, or more commonly Our Lady's Well. It still supplies most excellent water to all neighbourhood. Hope Holy Wells. In Sketchley, a hamlet in Burbage parish near Hinckley, there is a well now enclosed, which once had the reputation of brightening rustic brains. A quick repartee of smart sayings was sure to be greeted. Oh, you've been in Sketchley lately? Oh, dullard, would you recommend to go to Sketchley? Leicester Chronicle, 1874. Ratby. At Ratby, 4 miles northwest of Leicester, is a place called the Holy Well. The waters are antisebordic. Other holy wells at St. Austin's in Leicester, the water from which well was formerly in great repute as a remedy for sore eyes. Holywell Hall and those at Rye Hall dedicated to St. Tibber and St. Ebba. Holy wells, their legends and superstitions. St. Tibber's Well, Rutland. Royal. St. Tibber's Well and St. Ebba's or Jacob's Well. There are here a well and a shrine in honour of St. Tibbs. 'Tis now above 700 years since St. Tibbs was celebrated Saint of Royal, was taken out of her grave there and carried to Peterborough Church by Abbot Elgin. The inhabitants there have still an obscure memorial of her, but lost her name. They call her Queen, and say she need to walk up to Tibber's Hall, wash her in a spring there. This is all they know of her. The truth is, on Tibber's Hill is a spring which gave name to the hill Tibbswell Hill. 'Tis upon the hill going from Tothorpe to Bellingsford Bridge. On the brow of the hill, near the spring in Hall Green, as it is said called, taking its name from the anniversary meetings held in former times, in memory of St. Tibber, whose day in December the 16th. Hale is the name of Saxon ancestors given to the solemnities they practised in the fields in the honour of the saints. St. Tibber's Well is now corrupted into Stibble's Hill Well. Just above Royal in Stableford Bridge, which being an old name upon the river Gwash, this opinion is supposed to be it. When we read of St. Tiber, we find St. Ebba, her cousin, along with her another devout retired person who commonly lived with her. Hence the conjecture that the spring just above this bridge, northward of the brow of the hill, as it was opposite to St. Tiber's well, was consecrated by 4 pious ancestors to St. Ebba. Then this ford over the river before the bridge was built would be called St. Ebba's Well Ford, corrupted into Stables Ford. This same spring is now called by the shepherds Jacob's Well, and that probably is but a corruption of St. Ebba's Well. St. Tiber and Ebba were the royal Mercian blood and owned royal. They all first wild hunting girls at Last Saints. Stuckley's Diaries and Letters. Holywell, Holwell, Holwell, names of Leicestershire wells. In excavating for sewage purposes in Churchgate, Leicester, in 1853 or 1854, near the southwest corner of Burley's Lane, a very large quantity of pine was discovered in the site of what was evidently been an ancient spring or watercourse. Holywell Mouth, the source of considerable brook into the Vale of Belvoir. The fountain head is consistently kept in decent repair. There is a large commodious arbour adjoining the spring, with seats all round it with a stone table in the middle. The spring called Halliwell near Croxton Abbey. And that concludes Holy Wells. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.